God grants Solomon the wisdom he sought, and now we'll check out just how he goes about using it. Hi, I'm Ken Godevanis, and this is Digging for Scriptural Gems. We continue our study of 1 Kings as we dig deeper into chapter 3, verses 16 to 28. 1 King, chapter 3, verses 16 to 28. Let's go. It appears two prostitutes who lived in the same house came to Solomon to settle a dispute over which one of them was the real mother of a child. If we can believe one of them, both apparently had given birth to a child within 3 days of each other. No one else had been in the house. One commentator says that knowing this indicated to the king that there were no other witnesses that could identify the baby now brought before him, or to speak out as witnesses to what was being contended. And one of the two children that these two women had died. Now get this. One woman says the other woman's child died because she lay on it. Who knows under what conditions that could have happened? Maybe postpartum blues back then also had women sadly turning to alcohol or other drugs, as some people do today. Or, as I checked out with some friends, I'm told that it is heard of that sometimes people, mothers, do smother their babies in bed by accident. And that's why, exactly to this day, they tell you not to sleep with your newborn infants. Anyway, the woman continues her story saying that the mother of the dead child exchanged the babies in the middle of the night. And the one bringing the problem to Solomon for resolution said she realized what had happened as soon as she woke up in the morning. And then both women argued back and forth before Solomon. No, the living one is my son. No, he's not. He's my son. And so on. Then in verse 24, Solomon asks to have a sword brought to him, which his servants did. Now perhaps they did so wondering what on earth he was up to. And the king then utters the famous phrase, "Divide the child in two and give half to each woman." Problem solved. Now notice what happens next. The true mother of the living son cried out, "Oh, my lord, give her the living child and by no means kill him." The NAT actually says, quote, "For her motherly instincts were awakened." I had never noticed that before. God created women with motherly instincts, that I knew, but I hadn't noticed it in this story, and there's no denying it. You can fight it if you're determined to prove otherwise, but that does not change the reality, and you do so at your own peril. The other woman, however, said, "Divide him. He shall be neither mine nor yours." As hard as this sounds, this is still common today. The New Testament predicts it, where we read, quote, "In the last days, perilous times should come when people should be without natural affection." 2 Timothy chapter 3, verses 1 and also verse 3. Take a look at those. The best example of this today is the number of women that celebrate their abortions publicly and proudly and on social media, as well as elsewhere. We wonder how that is possible, but clearly God had foreseen that this would happen in the last days. Anyway, that is all that Solomon had to hear. That is, yes, I agree with the king, cut the baby in two and give us half each. And then he gave his order. Give the first woman the whole living child, and by no means kill him. She is his mother. End of quote. Solomon didn't need any DNA tests back then. Perhaps nowadays they would need that, maybe because they don't have the same kind of wisdom that God had given him. David Gusick says the true parental relationship was proved by love. The true mother would rather have the child live, perhaps without her going forward, than to have the child die with her. She put the child's welfare above her own. Solomon knew that the offer to cut the child in two would reveal the true mother, and he rewarded the mother's love accordingly. So the real mother got her baby back. A whole set of questions now arise for us. Did these two women continue living together? Did the real mother stop being a prostitute? And more. We don't know the answers, so don't even try to guess. At best, all we can do is ask ourselves, what would we do in that situation? Excuse me. Just as an aside, commentator David Gusick notes that some think that these two women were not harlots or prostitutes at all, and quotes Wiseman to say, quote, the Hebrew word zonot, Z-O-N-O-T or Z-O-N-O-T, could equally refer to innkeepers, end of quote. Now that's a far stretch for me personally, as I see no other supporting evidence for that. I could find none. And I also question the idea that two women would have had, at that time in history and in that culture, a business of that nature. I'm not saying they didn't have other businesses, but of that nature outside the home. But I may be wrong. Gusick also suggests that the women being prostitutes is a remarkable testimony to the goodness and generosity of Solomon. Not many kings would take the time to settle a dispute between two prostitutes. Well, that's possible too, but on the other hand, the job of a king who rules justly was to resolve issues between people, and this was one such case. In fact, Matthew Henry says it is probable the cause had been heard already in inferior courts before it was brought before Solomon. We don't know. The last verse in the chapter goes on to say that when all Israel heard of the king's judgment, they feared the king, seeing his wisdom was of God, and it was to be used to administer justice. You see, the whole point of Solomon's gift of wisdom was for others to see that, quote, it was of God, end of quote, and to marvel at God's wisdom. What's the application for us today? It'll be different for each of us, but here are some ideas. First and foremost, we need to be aware of God-given opportunities to help others with their decisions, with their issues, or anything else that God asks us to do for others. Second, unless we've had a similar exchange with him as Solomon had in our previous studies, we need to ask God for wisdom in each case before we utter our advice. Third, we need to give him the glory when others notice what we've done. I'm sure you have some ideas of your own. Next time, we're going to look at Solomon's princes and officials and deputies and see how they came into play. Join us for that. If you like what you've seen, please indicate so on this page. Also, you can subscribe to our YouTube channel, Digging for Scriptural Gems. We'd love to have you join us. Share with others if you like, and above all, we hope you keep on studying God's Word.